Hello and welcome back to Driftwood Hollow and of course to Timberborn. Now today I have a couple of things in mind. One of the first things that I want to get done is making sure this stays clean during a bad tide, which is going to involve creating a new diversion system up here for bad water, as well as sort of separating these two pools of water. The other things that I want to do is I want to raise our population a little bit. We currently have 4 vacancies in our jobs, which is fine because we do have 4 inventor stations, and we also have the builder's hut and the hauling station, which are a little bit lower priority. The other thing that I want to do is unlock Dynamite so we can start irrigating some of this land over here and expanding our farming zone out just a little bit. So I think the first thing that I want to do is just go ahead and build another one of these lodges. I think we have enough food to get this to work. If not, we can always increase it later on, but that should be a good start for us today. Just to prepare for that, I am going to throw down a couple of extra rows of potatoes. I believe these are both full, so that is good. I might even prioritize the potato plants because that is going to be beneficial, I think. So that should be good. The next thing we need to think about is Dynamite. I would like to get production of that started before we start working on this because it's going to take a little bit of time to build up. Now, to get Dynamite, we need to pump some bad water, which is probably going to come from over there because we really don't have any sources all that close to us. So I think that is exactly what I'm going to do. That is, of course, going to require the water tab and the bad water pump, which is going to cost us 250 science. Thankfully, we have enough. And it fits there, but I won't be able to get into it. Let's build a couple of platforms out here and get it in. Maybe there is our best bet. All right, that is going to require 2 platforms. We'll go ahead and throw those down right about there. Grab our bad water pump. That can live there. And then we can just simply bring this path over somehow. If I can make this somewhat neat, that would be nice. We can always fix it up a little bit later on. And then I think I would like to demolish this tree so we can throw in a little bit of storage. And that should be good to go. We'll speed this up just a touch so they can get this tree demolished. And then we can jump into our storage here, go for a medium tank and throw that down there, making sure that is indeed set to bad water. And I'm actually going to say this is our supply. So we should pump bad water from here, throw it in here, and then all the way back over here in our industrial plant is where we're going to throw down our actual Dynamite station. Now, we don't have access to that yet, but I think we can unlock it. Yep, 400 science to unlock that. This is going to live, honestly, probably right there. I think that makes the most sense. Unless we moved it over to there, that actually might be even better. So that, again, is going to have to require some platforms. Let's get those in. A couple of 2 higher there, those there, and then we can simply go into our landscaping, explosives factory, and throw that down right about there. Now, we need to bring power to this, and to do so, we can go ahead and use... Actually, normal power shafts should be fine here. If we just simply go ahead and grab another one of these platforms, throw it in right there, we can connect that up nice and simple like that. And then last but not least, we'll throw in another medium tank over here. Again, this is going to be set to bad water, and we are going to say obtain. So this will obtain goods from other warehouses, and then we should be able to use that in here. I believe that is how it works. Now, we don't just want explosives, because if we have a look at our landscaping here, we can use the normal Dynamite, which is just 1 explosive. But if we want to Dynamite 2 levels down or 3 levels down, we are going to require extract. Now, I do not want to unlock that just yet. Extract comes from the centrifuge, which I don't remember where it is. It's in one of these tabs. Not there. Tunnels, no. Dirt extractor and terrain blocks is not what I need. Where is that? Is it in water? Yeah, I think it's in water. There we go. The centrifuge. That's going to cost us an additional 600, but that will allow us to turn bad water and logs into that extract that we need. And that is going to live right about there. And I believe this is a 3x3 building. So we'll go ahead and get some more platforms in there, more platforms in there, and then our centrifuge can live right about there. Now, the only thing left to do is go ahead and add some storage for these buildings. And that should be pretty easy to do. We'll go ahead and add a medium warehouse. I'm going to bring one back from the road again. And the extract is a liquid, I believe. Let me just double check that is correct. Yeah, it is. So we'll go for a tank there, path those up. This can be for our explosives, and this can be for our extract, and they should get working on that. And honestly, I don't see there being too many issues, but we'll jump into a time lapse as they get all of that built. And with that all done, we are now producing extract, we are producing explosives, and we have 13 explosives stored and 22 extract, which is fantastic. We can now use that whenever we want to shape this terrain a little bit more than we could in the past. With that done and our population slowly on the rise, I think I would like to turn my attention to over here and actually splitting this up. Now, unfortunately, we have a bad tide in 0.3 days, so we're not going to get this done before this bad tide happens, but the bad tide isn't really going to affect us. This is more visual at this point, although I would like it so that we have access to this as always clean water if we can help it. So the general plan here is to basically build a wall right here, splitting off these two bodies of water. So we will jump into our landscaping, grab ourselves the levee, and honestly, it's just going to look something like this. Now, we will have to destroy a couple of things as we go along here, but that will be absolutely okay. That is far too tall. Let's go ahead and demolish that entire level, please. Yes. And delete that as well. That should be more than enough. We will, of course, have to, I don't know why that didn't get built, but we will have to demolish this, and also clear a path over to this area. So in order to do that, I think the easiest way is to just go into our demolish tab, mark resources for deconstruction, throw that in something like so, and then bring this out and across. Perfect. And then simply bring a path. Actually, I think that would look nicer. Let's do that instead. Get rid of these, and that should work out beautifully. The only thing now is to grab ourselves some wooden stairs, let them get up here and start working on that. I'll slowly but surely build this path out, and we'll make sure we can get there. Alright, that is as far as we can build without actually getting down here. And I think to get down here, I am just going to use the easy way, which is, of course, to use ladders. And I will probably... Actually, I don't know if I need a ladder there. I think they might be able to reach just by coming all the way down to the bottom and digging this out through the corner. I'm not 100% sure, but I guess we will see. And the answer is no, they cannot reach that, so we will have to go ahead and throw one more ladder in here with a path over there so that they can reach that final block. And then once that's finished, we'll go ahead and install the final two levees to block this off completely. And that is a functional levee separating these two bodies of water, which is exactly what I wanted to see. I will now just go in and make sure to clean up my scaffolding that is no longer required. I think that's everything. Yes, perfect. That is beautiful and functional and exactly what I wanted to see. The only thing left to do is to go ahead and figure out our diversion system for when this water source turns into bad water. And this water source is all the way back here. But that should be fairly easy to do. My general plan is to just simply demolish 2 of these, replace them with sluice gates, throw 2 sluice gates here, and call it a day. The only thing that we need to do is, of course, to make sure that they can actually get over there. So let's do that now. And simple as that, we now have a full diversion system working for this bad water source up here when we run into a bad tide. Simple as this stays open while the water's clean, these open when the water's bad, and that should divert that water, keep this nice and clean. And I think the last thing to do here is to make sure that this stays full. Let me slow down the game a little bit because running at 30 times speed really drags the computer out a little bit. But I think a dam down here is absolutely what we want to see. So this again should be pretty straightforward. We'll go with a levee there, and then we can either use floodgates or dams. I prefer the floodgates just because I like to be able to control the height of the water. And then we can just run a path. And thankfully we already have a path down into this water, so we can just run this across here, run it down like so, and I think they'll be able to build this corner, and that's it. Let's see how this goes. And just like so, if we weren't currently in a drought, this would fill up, and this would all be full. Our dam is doing very, very nicely. Everything is looking good for our beavers. We don't have power during a drought, but honestly, I'm not too bothered by it at the moment. We seem to be managing just fine. I think the next thing that I want to go ahead and do is start trying to irrigate some of this area back here. And I think if I run a 3-wide channel straight down this way, that could work out very, very nicely. We should also consider damming this up so that we have water available in here to irrigate that. So I think we'll knock that out really, really quick. Our drought just ended, and that was a relatively long one, and our dam is still very, very full. Exactly what we want to see. This is almost finished as they put the final touches on that last piece there. And this land here is a little bit contaminated, but I'm not super concerned about that. I think it'll be okay. Now all we need to do is figure out a way to get our water into here, and I think that's going to be relatively straightforward. Now that we have 68 dynamite in storage, I think I will just simply go for something like that. I'm going to make it 3 wide because that is the widest we can go to get the most amount of irrigation possible. And then how high are we here? I think this water level here is the exact same height. So we should, in theory, just be able to tunnel through this. That is going to require 2,000 science, which we just barely have. That may be something we need to work on a little bit here in a minute. But for now, I think that should function the way we want it to. No, that is actually very, very wrong, and that would make everything not so good. Let's instead go down 1 more level, because that is where this tunnel is actually going to be. And we can throw that in right about there, and that should work out a little bit better. So we'll let them get all that built, and we'll come back from there. And 1 dynamite left to go in here. They also haven't blown out this tunnel yet, but that is because they don't really have access. With that all done, we can now do the very satisfying thing and detonate 1 of these explosives and watch the entire thing get blown up. Now, in order for them to get down here, I am just going to quickly add some stairs. That should allow them access to this in order to tunnel all of this out. And the water is about to start flowing. as soon as they get this middle one detonated, and then this should all become nicely irrigated. And any second now, that is now out. If I move up with the camera, that irrigates almost that entire thing. We are going to get a little bit of flooding as this all equalizes, but that should hopefully subside in a little bit here. I'm pretty sure I got my water levels right, so this should clear up. We may have to lower these floodgates a little bit just in order to make that work, or alternatively, rather than just having a straight open tunnel in here, if this is going to flood but this isn't, which it looks like that is indeed the case. Are these not at the same height? Oh, I think this is one tile higher, so we would have had to do this anyway. But what we can do is we can simply go in here, demolish these 3 platforms. They are no longer necessary, and instead replace them with sluices. And that will allow us to control how much water is actually going in here. I have to wait to put that one down just before, while I wait for them to blow that up, just like so. And then we can simply say close above downstream depth of 0.5, keeping this at a very nice height. We do have a little bit of flooding at the moment, but that should clear up as soon as they get these sluices in. And with those sluices in, we should now see this water level changing to be a little bit lower, because currently this is at 1.03. It will take a little bit of time for all that to evaporate because we did make it 3 tiles wide, but that should be very, very good. And it should honestly go down relatively quickly here. We could also just open this up for a second, let some of that water drain out. I don't actually think that's going to help. Never mind. We'll reset that back to 0.65. Call it a day there. This should eventually clear up, and we now have a whole bunch of room for additional farms should we need them. And should we need them? I actually think we should. We are currently at 54 grilled potatoes, 72 carrots. It's a little bit tight. It's a little bit tighter than I would like it to be. So I think now is as good a time as any to go ahead and add bread to our situation over here. That is going to require a couple of different things. We are going to need the grist mill, which is going to be 180 science. This does require power, so we need to keep that in mind. And then we will also need the bakery. This does not require power, so that is fantastic. It is, however, longer than I would like it to be. Maybe we go ahead and add it in down here, or on top of another storage building. I think on top of another storage building would make the most sense. If we add the bakery on top like so, that should work. Now, where can we get power from? And did I build this in a terrible spot? I think I did. Let me redo this. And instead, how much does this take? This only takes 60 horsepower. Once this starts flowing, I think we can get that to work just with this little bit of water flow that we have right here. I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. Especially because we have, okay, why are you still so full? This is at 1. These should be closing above downstream depth of 0.5. Okay, it might have just let in a little bit too much. That's fine. And what we can do to actually fix that is we can say you are closed at all times, you are closed at all times, you don't synchronize with the ones next to you, you don't synchronize with the ones next to you, no one synchronize, and then I'll set this to auto, and we can just use the 1 to make sure that we don't get too much water flow in here at a time, and I think that will work out nicely. I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get all of this irrigated, but I think we can actually fix that with our new food setup. So what I'm thinking is we go into our landscaping here and we go for a little bit of dynamite action. If we dynamite out, say that, leave a 2 gap there, I think that'll be good. I just want to dynamite that because it's sticking out and I don't like it. We can get that done, and then we can build a power wheel, water wheel thing over here to power our grist mill. I think that's the plan. All right, dynamite is officially in place. We will go ahead and detonate that. Did I miss? There we go. Slow the game down. Thank you. Detonate that. And that will give us something like that. And now we can jump into our power tab, grab ourselves a water wheel. I will have to throw down quick little platform, just like so. Power, water wheel. Thank you. And we can throw that. Honestly, I don't think it really matters, but if we do it there, we can potentially get 2 of these in if we need it. That can go there, and then we can jump into our landscaping, and we can say levee that, and levee that corner as well. That should give us the maximum amount of throughput with that water wheel, and I think that will be a very good thing. Now, do we have access down here? We don't, but we should be able to build all of this, assuming that we extend this path out. They should be able to build that all nice and easily. Now, our food situation is going to look a little bit different now. So we can throw down our gristmill there, I guess. I kind of want it 1 forward. I'm going to throw it 1 forward. I know that's going to mean I'm going to have a power shaft, but I am okay with that. We'll throw a power shaft in there. Food, we will have storage. So we need 2 storages in here. And I think they can honestly just go over this way, like so. This one will be for storing wheat, if I can find it. And this one will be for storing... Where is it? I can never find it. I know it's one of these. I believe it's that. No, that's cattail flour. Cattail roots. Okay, it's one of these. Wheat flour. Perfect. And actually, that is not even going to store that. That is instead going to store our bread. And we'll build another one on top of this. And this will be for our wheat flour, which I think is going to work out nicely. And then we can simply throw our bakery in right about there. Only thing left to do, of course, is to go ahead and add ourselves a ladder, which can face that way. Grab a path for on top. And that should be our wheat situation pretty much sorted. From there, I will just simply go ahead and add another additional farmhouse. Can this service the bottom area as well? Yes, it can. Perfect. We can throw that right there, grab our plant crops, and say I would like you to plant wheat all the way up here, all the way in there, and all the way down there. I don't know if that's going to be enough, but that is exactly what I'm going to start with. Looks like these farmhouses do overlap a little bit, so we should have a little bit more workforce doing that. We do have 7 beavers currently unemployed, so I think we have the workforce in order to get this done. So let's see what this looks like once they have finished all of this construction. That flooding seems larger than it used to be. I'm hoping that it still all clears up nicely. Let's just run the game at 30 times speed for a second here and make sure that it does. It should, in theory, clear up. Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay. We're okay. We're not overflowing. Everything is now nice and full. We should have power coming in here. Yeah, we have 400 and something power in there going in. Absolutely amazing. This doesn't have a path, but that is just because they are still working on this staircase. Once that is done, this construction should all be complete and working as intended. Perfect. We should now have flour coming in, and in turn, bread. So I'm going to let the game run for a little bit, make sure that we do stabilize on our whole food situation over here, and see how we go with that. We have a couple of injured beavers, a couple of unwell beavers, and we're lacking a few workers, but honestly, I think we're okay. We're also lacking materials for the bakery, which is fine. We can automate the ingredients to save a worker there, and we'll automate the products as well. I want to make this 5 to 10%, and that should be absolutely good to go. So we'll see how this goes as soon as we start seeing wheat get fully grown and turned into bread. Alright, we have our first wheat coming in. That should go ahead and get ground into wheat flour here in a second. I can probably automate this ingredients a little bit less. If we say like 1 to 5%, that should be much more reasonable. That is now being processed, and then in turn, that should allow us to process this into bread, and I'll do the exact same thing. I'll say 1 to 5% on the products there, and very quickly, we should see that we have enough wheat flour to start actually making bread. Now, this is not going to function while we have a drought, which is a little bit unfortunate and I would like to fix. It also looks like we've flooded half the map. Thankfully, it's half of the map we don't really care about, but I believe that's just because these floodgates are set a little bit too high. Let's set those to 0.5 instead. And that should fix the problem, or did I build these floodgates too high? Let's just go down. Okay, I think I built these floodgates too high. That is my bad. Let's get back up to the top here. We may have to go ahead and build ourselves a levee on this riverbank to stop this from happening, although it's not really affecting us at the moment. It's all just draining out. But yeah, I think a levee down here is probably something that we need to address at some point soon. But the thing that I would like to address first is getting our bread factory to continue to run while we have a drought. And there are a couple of ways we can go about that. We can either use windmills, which are about as temperamental as our water flow situation, or we could unlock the gravity battery. Stores energy surplus and gives it back when network is underpowered. The higher it's built, the more energy it can store. That is going to cost us 400 science. It costs 40 planks, 40 gears, and 10 steel to build. Now, we could build them here, but that doesn't seem particularly efficient to me, because the higher you build these, the more power they can store. And we would also like it to connect to our power buildings. So we could potentially build it off the back here, and that would work. Maybe even like so, we could build a couple of them in here, and I think that is exactly what I want to do. So let's go ahead and get our power sources running through there, and then we will need a way to get up here. So that is going to come in the form of ladders. I imagine this is going to be fairly expensive to do, but I think it is going to be worth it. I just want to build up pretty much as high as we can go to somewhere like there. And I'm now realizing that that doesn't quite work the way that I wanted it to, because these don't transmit power upwards. Instead, we are going to have to use, if we jump back into the power tab, our vertical power shafts. And I think honestly running them right next to the ladders is probably the best bet. That way we can, you know, build them at the exact same time. So that is going to be our battery, which is a little bit insane for a little flour mill, but you know, we might expand our power needs later on down the line, and we may as well build big or go home. So let's grab ourselves some triple platforms. That's going to cost us 200 science, and they are just going to run like so. And I'm hoping that we can build all of this at once. If we can't, then that is a little bit annoying, but we'll see how it goes. And then can we fit the battery on top of this? No, we might have to come down by one level here. So let's get rid of all of that. Gravity battery can now still no longer sit up here. Go down one more level, which honestly is kind of relieving because this is probably going to be a very expensive project, and that can do just like that. I will need to grab myself one more vertical power shaft to power those, and that is our monstrosity of a battery. It should be able to hold a really good amount of power. I'm considering demolishing half of this for now, because that seems rather expensive. So let's get rid of that side, because this is the side that we built the tower on, and see just how expensive this is going to be. We are doing pretty well on resources. I would love some more food, but other than that, I think this will be okay. So let's figure out a nice little spot to capture a cinematic and see how long this takes to build. How did you end up in there? Oh, beavers. Beavers, beavers, beavers. Well, I don't want to start demolishing this. It's a shame that we can't come through the vertical power shaft. And I'm going to have to demolish these anyway in order to get power shafts in here. Unless, of course, I just simply go ahead and add a ladder there, and double ladder there. That way we can do something like that, and bring that up like so. I also did not put ladders up to paths up to this. I don't know if that is 100% required, but I'm going to do it anyway, just because I don't want to come back and see none of this actually progressing. So that should get done. I will just go ahead and assign a higher priority to all of these things to make sure that we can unstrand that beaver as soon as possible. For some reason, our bakery does not seem to be functioning. I think it's mostly due to the fact that we don't have any logs in here. And the reason we don't have any logs in here is not immediately obvious to me. I'm going to set that to none for now, set it back to bread, and see if that fixes it. But I have not seen any bread pop up over here, which is honestly a little bit concerning. We do have people working in here, but nothing is being used. Unless this can somehow get power. But I don't think it can. And yeah, I'm not seeing any bread. So if you guys know why that is the case, I would love to know as we get all of this flooding again, as we get water back. Yeah, my bread does not seem to be behaving at all. I think what I'm going to do is just quickly demolish that and rebuild it in hopes that that fixes the problem, because it honestly should. That should be bread, and we'll see how that goes. Alright, that seemed to fix the problem. We now have bread coming in. I don't know what that was about, but it is what it is. It also looks like this tower is almost finished. We have one more power shaft to go, a couple of platforms on the front here, and then our battery for the very top. I imagine this battery is going to be high enough that this should be able to be done. It's saying that it's too far from a district and cannot be reached. That should not be the case. I hope that fixes itself. It's saying that is too. Potentially this ladder needs to go one higher and we add another path on top. Potentially that'll fix the problem, because we can build that. So let's see. Apparently this is not working. And I'm not 100% sure if it's because we aren't high enough. I mean, if I add a path on top of that, does that help for some reason? I mean, that can't even be built at the moment, so I can't see why it would. This is all definitely connected. Oh, I know why. I know why. Let's go ahead and jump into our deconstruction menu. Mark resources for deconstruction. Actually, no, we don't have to do that. Cancel that. And instead, we will run a path up this way. Over here, this is a little bit convoluted, but we can get rid of it in a second. That can go there, and then we can connect that up, because this was not connected to a path, which is why they couldn't reach this. So as soon as they build this ladder, that should be all resolved. There we go. They should be able to build it now. I was missing one more path in order to get that to work, but that should be fine now, as you can see them bringing resources up here. Alright, that is now officially finished. We can now demolish this. Let's just make sure that there are no beavers actually actively up there. There are not, which is good. Let's demolish that, and demolish this path. We can leave the one at the bottom, and honestly, I might even end up deconstructing these like I was originally going to, because I think it will look a little bit better. Let's just cancel planting crops in that area. These will get demolished. We can add a path to that tower as soon as they get that done, and that is a lot cleaner. Let me just go ahead and clean up some of this mess in here. Perfect. That is looking much better, and we now have 40,000 HPH to use. This only uses 60, so I imagine that will serve us for a very long time. The only thing left to do in here, I guess, is, well, do we even need to increase our wheat production? We're actually doing really well on food at the moment. We have 51 beavers. I am honestly pretty happy with that. Our water is all flowing nicely. Everything is looking good. We currently have 113 dynamite left for whatever we want to use it for, really. And I have a couple of ideas. I was tempted to make this little pathway underwater with a tunnel, and that way every time they come out of bed they will get the wet fur buff. I'm also tempted to bring this bank back a little bit in order to irrigate a little bit more of this inside area, although this would do that exact same job. And the other thing I'm tempted to do is to make this all uniform height. I don't know. Which one of those would you guys like to see? That is what I am curious about. I don't know. There's so many options. Well, I still don't understand why this is flooding. We have sluice gates in here that... Oh, that's why. That is why. That is a platform. So that is water getting through in here that is causing that to happen. We can fix that if we go into landscaping and get an impermeable floor. I believe if we put impermeable floor over both of those, that should fix that issue. The only trouble is we need to be able to access it. And we might be able to access it underneath. It looks like, yeah, that might actually be the case. We should have access to that. That is now filled in, and that should mean that this water should not rise to this height anymore. Let me just speed up the game, make sure that is actually the case. We may need to put some on top of our sluice gates as well, but I don't think we should. We should be okay with this. I'm going to put some on top of the sluice gates anyway, just in case that is the problem, and see if that works. I don't know if they can access these. It looks like they can. Perfect. And with that said and done, we now have impermeable floor here, and this is no longer overflowing. Fantastic. All right. What's next? Well, what is next is probably zipways, because I would like to get over here, and that is a hell of a long way to walk. So I'm thinking if we unlock zipways, we can get over there a lot more efficiently. Now, in terms of doing that, that would cost us, what's that, 1,200 and 1,800 if we want the zipline beams as well. That's not bad, but I think it might be time to instead upgrade our science situation with the observatory. That, however, is going to require us getting pine resin. We do have some pine trees in here, and we can absolutely go ahead and harvest those for pine resin. We're doing fine on wood, so I'm absolutely okay saying, hey, no longer cut down our pine trees, instead we will harvest them. And I may even do the same for a couple of our other trees as well. Chestnut trees can give us chestnuts, the maple trees can give us maple syrup, and oak trees don't give us anything, so that is all we'd be really interested in. So let's go ahead and cancel harvesting all of those, and then instead we will go ahead and throw in a tapper's shack, which I believe is in wood. Yeah, tapper's shack. Employee tappers who gather sap and syrups from trees. These will gather pine resin and maple syrup. How do we get the chestnuts? That is my question. Chestnuts. No, that's not going to tell me. I have done it before, but I can't remember how I did it. So maybe it's, oh, actually, I think it's a gatherer's thing. So let's, I guess, throw our tapper's shack right there. Get a nice little doorway there. And then we need to store both maple syrup and pine resin. Now, pine resin, I don't believe is actually a liquid, even though it probably should be. Maple syrup is, but pine resin is not. So we need a medium tank for our maple syrup. What a delicious tank that would be. We'll grab that there, and we'll grab a medium warehouse facing the right way. And this will be for pine resin. Absolutely fantastic. And then we can even throw in one more, and this can be for our chestnuts. If I can find them, there they are right there. And then we can simply go into our food, gather a flag, place that down right about there, I guess. Should be fine. And this is prioritizing chestnuts. Fantastic. That should be all good and ready to go. Alright, they are all in. I don't really want to prioritize one or the other. We should have more than enough to deal with both. But I think this is something we actually have to deal with at this point. The fact that this is just constantly overflowing, I do not like one little bit. So let's figure out a way down here. Looks like we already have a path to the other side. As long as we can find somewhere to get up that is free of trees, we should be able to do this. Actually, we should be able to go up straight there, grab ourselves our ladder, throw that up to there, make sure there's a path on both of them, and then we can start demolishing some of these trees that are lining this edge and replacing them with a levee. So deconstruct resources. I will do this like a little bit further back from the edge of the river just so that we have a little bit of walking room as we are doing this. But that is going to be a lot of trees marked for deconstruction. Sorry, trees. You've got to go. All right. That should do. They'll slowly but surely start working on that, and then we can go from there. Alright, with our path all laid out, this should now be a fairly easy step of simply throwing in a levee all the way along this riverbank, making sure it no longer floods. Now, of course, that ladder is going to get in the way, but for now, that should work. We can get started on that, and then once that's finished, we can get rid of this ladder and finish that off. Well, there's something I didn't see. There is a gap running through here as well, because of course there is. So let's get a secondary set of stairs in there. Let's go ahead and mark all of these resources for deconstruction, all of these as well, because I mean, they're going to be underwater, so it'll look a little bit silly. And from there, we should be able to levy this off as well and fix that problem, which is exactly what I want to see. We are making decent progress. It's a little bit slow, but it's not too bad. We're doing okay. Oh, this is all now flooded, which means no one has a home anymore. So that's fun. Let's go ahead and prioritize getting all of these done. Because it turns out this levee here is more important than anywhere else. Yeah, that is 100% my bad. Why are you not building this? Please build this nice and quickly. Please and thank you. All right, they're doing it now. I did not see that little gap. All those trees really covered that up very, very nicely. Why are my beavers not doing the thing? I really need this to be built like today. That is now maximum priority. I don't know if it works because it's technically underwater. Thankfully, we do have a bad tide incoming, so our water levels should drop a little bit. I can also lower this floodgate. That might help a little bit. It won't help a ton, but it'll help a little bit. I could also just demolish those for now, which might be the best play, actually. Let's go ahead and do... Well, actually, we only need to demolish the middle two, just so that this water can flow through here. Get all of this flooding out of my town. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Now that's being built. Now we're doing this. And okay, we should be good. I can go ahead and reset the priority of this back to normal. This is now fixed, and we can simply go ahead and block that off right there. Is there anywhere else in here that is going to be tricky? No. It looks like that is it. Perfect. Demolish that tree, please. Get a path in here so that nothing else grows. And from there, we should be okay. Oh, what a nightmare. What a nightmare. Who knew flooding could be so bad for beavers? The bad tide is starting. It is 3 days long. I don't think we'll have an issue. We have so much water available to us on the map. All of our water storage is currently full, which is exactly what we want to see. I didn't need to come down here at all because they can actually build this from the top. So that was a waste of time. But hey, we got it fixed eventually. Alright, with all of that back in, this should now no longer flood, which is exactly what we wanted to see. This was definitely not something that I was planning today, but I guess it's done now, so we don't have to worry about it too much. I would like to demolish all of these paths, because, I mean, we don't have access to them anyway, so let's get rid of all of that. And this is actually not watertight yet, I've just realized. So thankfully I was paying attention. We still need to construct our final levees in here, which is just going to be right there, and then we'll build that final one once those are done, just to make sure that no one gets stranded, hopefully. Hopefully they don't build this from the other side of the road. If they do, that's 100% not on me. Alright, now we should be floodproof. Perfect. That is exactly what I wanted to see. We might still have a little bit of flooding as soon as all of these open up, but for now, we're as floodproof as we can possibly be. And we have some new resources available to us. We have 112 pine resin sitting in there. We have a little bit of maple syrup, a few chestnuts, which I believe need to be roasted. But before we get to any of that, I would like to upgrade our inventors to observatories. This is going to cost us 1,000. They are a little bit bigger, but I mean, honestly, can we just replace these? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely we can. The only problem is these require power. Now, do we care about research when we don't have water flow? The answer to that question is probably not. So I'm tempted to build it over here. With the rest of this situation that we've got going on. Or we could connect it to this power station and maybe put it in this little area here, maybe on the water. That doesn't seem like a bad idea. For now, let's go ahead and get rid of our old inventor stations because they are no longer necessary. Do we have access to the water down here? I don't think we do. If I toggle that water off, no, we do not. So we don't have access to getting rid of that tree, which is a little bit unfortunate, and we should probably just throw in a permanent ladder down here in order to be able to get down to this. So let's throw that there, get a path going on all 3 levels there. I will go ahead and mark this singular tree for deconstruction, and then we can have a look at where our observatory is going to sit. Now, in terms of getting power, this should be relatively easy. But I think I would like to sit this maybe back over the water a little bit. So let's get ourselves a couple of platforms like so. We're going to have to wait for that tree to come out. And then we should, in theory, be able to put our observatory right about there, which is exactly what I want to see. Something like that. So we'll let them get on with that and come back once we are ready to place that. Alright, observatory is officially going in. We just need to figure out how to connect this up to power. And honestly, it's probably going to be something like this, even if we just build a full path over there, and then we can just simply plug it in like so. I would have loved to have built it in here, but I didn't think about it before we did it, and I do not want to remove this battery in order to do so. Now, the question is, do we just want 1 observatory, or do we want 2? And I think the answer is we want 2. So let's go ahead and grab ourselves some double platforms, throw them in like so, and maybe even a singular platform just there. Throw that there and then throw a second observatory there, and that should get us a bunch of research. This is faster and produces 10 times the science. The only downside is, well, there's 2 downsides. The first is that it requires power, which isn't that big of a deal. And the second is that it requires 4 workers. So again, we are going to put these on, nope, not the construction priority, the workplace priority down to 0. So if there is nothing else to do, we will do research. But if you guys have better things to do with your day, go ahead and do that instead. Perfect. It looks like we are struggling a little bit for planks, which is kind of annoying because I really didn't leave myself all that much room out here to put in additional buildings. I guess we could potentially plank this and have another workshop in here, or build one on the other side. It would just be a little bit inefficient getting the resources across there. Yeah, I don't think we worry about it just yet. One thing that I might do is change this storage to be underground, just so that we can get more stockpiled when we're not actively using all of them. But I definitely think we're going to have to get more plank production up and running very, very soon. And just like that, both our observatories have officially been built. This is saying we don't currently have any workers, which is probably accurate. Looks like we still need to ramp up our food production a little bit more, but I think we're going okay. That also probably cut into the amount of power that we can store, because I did build this massive building underneath our battery, which was probably not the best idea, but I think it'll be okay. I think that is where I am going to leave today's episode. If we can get the water to turn off. There we go. We have done quite a lot. We made this a levee, which we didn't plan on doing. We made all of this dammed, which is going to give us a whole bunch more fertile terrain in case we do need to expand our food production later on down the line. We added this little tunnel to irrigate our land. Added 2 observatories, which is absolutely fantastic. We unlocked dynamite, we unlocked extract, we unlocked chestnuts, maple syrup, and pine resin, which is fantastic. I think the next step for this series is dealing with this water source up here. And the reason that I want to deal with this is because currently when we get a bad tide, we have to wait for this entire thing to turn to bad water before that bad water comes running out. And then when it gets clean again, we have to wait for all that bad water to dissipate, essentially making our bad tides last so much longer than they need to. Instead, what I would like to do is sort of dam this little area off here and run a diversion out down to this bad water, so that when we get a bad water, it doesn't pollute this entire lake. It just runs straight out, which is exactly the plan for the next episode. That is going to involve unlocking zipways, getting fast travel out to this location so that we can actually effectively build it. But that is what you have to look forward to if you guys are enjoying this series. And if you are enjoying the series, go ahead and make sure to leave a like and a comment for the sake of engagement. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Consider becoming a Golden Panda member if you would like your name in the game. But until next time, happy building, happy damming. Bye, guys.